Welcome to Chinuch podcast number 2, 3.
Well, this is the call-in show number 2.
Call-in show number 2.
Probably number 6 in the reel. So you can go on YouTube and check out our previous talks about this.
Yeah. Okay. So we're going to discuss. We'll minus the introduction. We're going to discuss how do we get the kids to listen, your kids to listen to you the first time, and we're going to give the principle. Everyone is going to have to figure out their kid's age, stage, how it works, but the principles will stay the same. So the first thing is you've got to mean what you're going to say. Meaning, use a simple example. You want your kid to pick up, your child to pick up something from the floor. So in your mind, you have to follow through. You have to make sure that they're going to pick it up from the floor. So you say, Mandy, can you please pick up the toy from the floor? That has to happen. And in your mind, you have to become, like, so to speak, it's a bad word to use, a policeman, but you're going to be that parent, and you're going to make sure that happens. And in your mind, you're going to make sure it happens, and your kid has to see it. And in the beginning, especially, because your kid is not necessarily accustomed to this, so it takes time. And the kid will push you. Because the kids really ultimately want boundaries. And what you're doing is you're giving them boundaries. It's the best thing you could do for them. It's the best thing for you, best thing for your relationship.
We have a whole video on boundaries. So if you want to catch up and hear more about it, it's actually on our YouTube channel yet again. So you can go check that out.
Okay. So when you, in your mind, when you say it, it's going to happen. And you'll do whatever it takes. So in a simple sense, you tell the kid, together with that, if you think about it, it's how do you say it? If you come to your kid, you're telling something important. Let's say, Chas v'shalom, a kid is starting to walk close to the street. You're not going to say, Mendele, is that such a good idea? You're going to be very intense about it. And here, the same thing. You don't have to be wild. Don't get emotional, but have that seriousness. It's also the way you face the kid. You know, if you're like, you know, I noticed that sometimes I do that. I'll go do something and I'm like, I walk off the other way. The kid's like, he's walking the other way. He's not going to take it. It doesn't matter. So if you come, you face your child and you say, can you please pick that up? In a stir, like a serious, like you mean it, not emotional, you mean it.
Yeah, you're not angry, you're not upset, you're not screaming. You're trying to be very cool, calm, and collected, and you're just saying it like you mean it. Mendel, can you please pick that up? And again, I personally use please because I usually try to speak to my children with respect, and I want them to also say please when they speak to me, but I mean it. Just because I use please doesn't make it any less not intense, any less serious.
And so then, and we're using the bad example so we can understand the concept. And let's say Mendel doesn't go pick it up. So you could maybe say the second time, but you don't say it the second time. You look at Mendel and you say, Mendel, I asked you to pick it up.
Right. Eye contact is important.
Yeah, and the seriousness on your face, and the seriousness really comes within you. And he will look at you and he'll see that you're serious. If this is the first time you're ever doing this, so probably, unfortunately, this is the reality of it, he's going to say, whatever, walk off. So then you have to come and you have to hold him in a not in a rough way, but in a firm way, in a way that you're sure that what I said is going to get done. Yeah. So someone posted a question that when you say please, you're making optional.
So I think it depends on how you deliver the please. I personally try to, and again, it goes with the whole body thing. You look at the child, you face them, you try it as much as possible to make eye contact. If you're able to go down to their level, that's even better. And say, can you please pick that up? I personally, that's my own thing, that I feel like the Torah respects respect, and I want my children to speak to me with respect, and so therefore I speak to them with that level of respect. So I don't make it as like, can you please pick that up? Because then that is optional. But if you say, you know, Rifki, can you please pick this up? It's different. It's a tone of voice, it's a style, it's the way you approach the child, and all of that.
Yeah, and the tone of voice is to show that you're serious.
Yeah.
Not that you're angry or anything. Again, it's just show that you're serious. It's like when we see a police officer speaking to us, that you can tell there's some seriousness with the situation. You're not going to act all cool and relaxed. You're going to take it respectfully. And same thing here. So you come, you just say it straight. And, and so you tell them. I asked them to pick it up.
So follow through the other example. So let's say this is the first time they're doing it with their child.
Yeah, so they're not going to pick it up.
So then what happens? Oh.
So there's a lot of questions. We'll explain it, and then we'll go to the questions.
Yeah.
So let's say it's a case the kid didn't pick up a toy. And again, one of the things you have to also appreciate is the age and what stage.
And what you're expecting of them to do.
Yeah, are you expecting something that's actually something that can be done? Right. But when taking all those aside, you can do it. The kid can do it. You know they can do it, and you want them to do it. This is clean up time. They should clean up. So the simple thing you do, if they're not listening, you just take their hand and you make them hold the thing, and pick up the toy, and you walk with them. And you put it away and you say, this is how we clean up.
And again, the most important part of this whole thing is that you don't lose your cool. The most important part is that you stay calm and collected. Don't let it get to you. Sometimes they giggle or they laugh or they make jokes out of it. You're going to go over.
Just testing you.
Yeah, they're just testing you. So you stay calm and you stay quiet and only use the words that you know you can actually keep. Like, don't make promises about certain things like, oh, we're never going to come back again. It's like, that's not going to happen, or it's just not going to happen. So make sure that everything you say, you can actually keep. Yeah, we're going to get to
a lot of the questions.
Yeah, we're going to get to the questions. So make sure you can actually keep it. So for example, if it is something to pick up and they're refusing or they're not, so very gently but firm, meaning like gently, like you're not getting angry at them, you're not being aggressive with them, chas v'shalom, but make sure that you take them. You take their hand, walk over to whatever they're meant to pick up, and you pick it up with their hand. And then you put it wherever it's meant to be. And then at the end of the day, they see, oh, wow, mommy really means it, or tati really means it. Like, what they're saying is going to happen. And yes, they're going to test you. They're probably going to test you a few times. But again, make sure, follow through. Make sure that everything you say, you actually will follow through. If you see that you're not going to follow through, don't even say it. It's just there's no point.
Yeah, exactly. You have to pick your battles. And I think one of the things happen when you start to do this, you start to recognize how much you're just saying things that you can't actually follow through with. And so that's like sort of the first recognition. And then you can't, and then so what you do is you have to think before you speak, and you say, what can I say? Sometimes what I'll do for my kids that I'm not sure if they can do it, and I don't want to be forceful with it, I'll say, do you mind, like, if you don't mind, could you get me that? So then the kid says, I do mind. And it is an option. And I'm fine. I'm not going to do, because I not have the time or the patience to deal with it. Now, again, in the beginning, because it's new, so they push you and they try. But and the challenge for you as wanting to be the best parent you can is follow through with it. And in the beginning, and the more times you follow through, they learn quickly. It's the same principle as trying to walk onto the table when you don't fit on the table anymore.
And if you don't know that story, watch
the
last week's
previous one. What will happen is you'll hit your head the first time, and maybe 2 more times before you're not going to do it again. It's the same thing. And the kid is going to see it's not beneficial to not listen. And it goes with everything. Let's say, for example, the kid is old enough to clean up after themselves. Same thing. Or they're making a mess on the floor. Let's say they eat. A simple example, kids, and I see this, and this is one of the things that like we instill in our kids, is that let's say a kid sitting on the table eating dinner, and they spill something on the floor, they drop their fork. So what do they tell you? Mommy, can you pick it up? Don't do it. Maybe once, it's by accident, but as a rule, I let them do it. Why? Why don't you put your fork on the floor? Why don't you make a mess on the floor? You ever wondered why you don't make a mess on the floor and just chuck your things around? Because in the end, you have to clean it up. You don't want to sit there cleaning up all the day. So you make sure not to make a mess. But if your kid doesn't learn that rule, so he's like, hey, I could just make a mess on the floor because someone else cleans it up. Mommy cleans it up, so what's the difference to me? But if a kid drops something on the floor, their fork on the floor, and you say, come, and I tell them get it themselves, or you lift them up. You lift them out of the, you take the chair and you make them go down and pick it up. It's a hassle for them. Also, you don't make it easy when you're trying to let them experience it. So you don't take them down and help them. You make them do it themselves.
Yes, what we do is we help. Age appropriate, of course. Good question. Age appropriate, of course, but we just take off the tray of their seat and then make them climb down, pick up the thing, put it in the right place, and make them climb back up, and then we buckle them. By the time they finish, it's a bit annoying for us, but again, it's a concept of Chassidus. It's called the skafia. It's better to spend that extra 5 minutes making sure that they clean up after themselves this time, or let's say they do it once, twice, maybe 3 times, then it's better that than you have to clean up after them because they don't realize cause and effect, as we discussed in last week's talk.
And what will happen is 1 or 2 or 3 times they'll drop the fork on the floor, whatever it is. But then but after a while it's a hassle. I don't want to have to deal with the hassle. It's the same thing with spilling on the floor. If you make them clean it up to whatever level they can clean up, how many times they're going to spill everything on the floor? If you come and why don't you spill things on the floor? Because it's a mess and a hassle, and you don't want to have to deal with the mess and the hassle. So the kids have to learn that same concept to their extent. If they come and sit there and they spill the whole water bottle, and they can't clean the whole thing, so I'm not going to make them clean the whole thing, but I'll get them, come, clean it up. Go get the towel, go get your washcloth, and start cleaning. And if they're not doing it, so you grab their hands and you clean it with them, and you show them how to do it. And with that process, they will learn. Everything has a cause and effect, what you do. And what you do is, and so when you're sitting there and you're showing them this, when the cause, I'm going to tell you to do something. The fact is you're going to do it. If you're not going to choose not to do it, so it's going to be uncomfortable for you. It's not going to be beneficial for you. And in the end, you're not going to win from this. So what the kid learned, it's just more beneficial for me to do what my parents tell me to do. Body language is important. Your mindset into it is important. If you just say things and you don't really expect anything to happen, they're actually going to listen. So they're not going to listen. And this is a process. It takes time, but it's very critical that you prepare yourself. And what I'm going to say is going to be done. And I'll give you an example of this, a big example that I had when I was growing up. I did Mitzvah Shabbos. And actually, I think it was with Ellie. But so I had Mitzvah Shabbos, and I had these kids. And so I try to make all these rules to run. It was like kids are out of control. I'm trying to, try to control whatever it is, 10 plus kids. And it was just struggling. And then I realized one rule. And I said, this is one rule, and I can remember it. It's easy, and I can follow through with it. Basically, at the end of the time, they would always get 2 snacks. They get a drink and some chips. So I said, there's one rule. I say everything only once. If I say it twice, then you miss out part of your refreshments. And that was the rule. And if I have to do that again, so you miss out both of your refreshments. And I told them, my co-counsel, I said, we have to make sure to pay attention who it is and make sure that they miss. So the kids didn't trust me. Yeah, whatever, really. So they did whatever they wanted. Came to the snack time in the end. Out of 10 kids, about 5 kids missed. And they're like, hey, why am I not getting? So I said, I told you in such and such situation once, and you didn't listen. I have to tell you again. And the rule is, if I tell you twice, you miss out part of your refreshments. The kid was like, oh. The next week happened, 3 kids missed. And the week after that, no kids missed. And from that point on, they never missed. Why? Because they knew there's a cause and effect. Now, if I listen to him, I get my snack in the end. If I don't listen to him, I miss out on my snack. Is it worth it? It's not worth it. And same thing, if you're going to say something and it's going to be done, so it's just quicker and easier for the child to just do it the first time. What you'll probably see when you try this is that you say a lot of things that it's not going to be done. And it's a practice. But the problem is, if you're not consistent with it, and one time you say, and you follow through with it, and then something else, you don't follow through with it. So the kid has this mixed message. It's like sometimes you walk under the table and you hit your head, or sometimes you don't hit your head. So it's a mixed messaging and you don't understand. And the key is to try to be consistent, which it takes time and you practice. Listen, and like I said to you in the beginning, I have stages that goes up and down, up and down. Now, I think Baruch Hashem, it's generally straight and not so up and down, but it happens. And what happens, and I'll notice at a certain point, I'm like, man, he's not listening to me. And then I'll say, I realize, like I'll say to myself, I'll tell them, how about it? Like, I realize I'm not being consistent. I got to be careful with what I'm saying. And I start to think about what I'm saying. And I notice it, and you'll start to notice it. I'm saying things, but they're not being heard. Let's say you say to the kid, go get dressed. And then you walk off making breakfast. 5 minutes later, the kid's still not dressed.
Building Legos.
Yeah, you're building Legos, and you're like, oh, what? But and so we blame the kid, but it's us. We didn't follow through with it. Whereas if I come and I say, come, go get dressed, and I stand there watching them, So in the beginning, what happens, you have to be there. You have to be showing them that you're going to follow through with it, and they will realize it. But as you go along, you don't need to stand there because they already know. They already know when you tell them something, it has to get done. And they don't even think twice. But every so often, you have to be aware because they're going to suddenly catch you not being so consistent. So you have to make sure you come to consistent. But once you get to that point where they're listening to you, it's just continuing doing this, just continue. And you'll see it's like it's the best feeling. I'm telling you, when you go to the park or you go anywhere, I see kids that don't listen to their parents, and the kids run the street, and it freaks me out. And for me, it's so enjoyable when I just tell my kid, Levik, stop there, and he just stops, and it's like, yes, it's like it's this calmness. It's like menuchas and nefesh.
A few days ago, someone asked me, "How do you get your kids to come at the park?" Literally, that exactly. Yeah. And also together with that last thing, and then we'll check the questions, is that be careful that you're on the same page as your spouse, because that's not going to be a good idea. If you say something and then the spouse comes and says something else, then the kid's going to see that he can jump around between you two, and that's not good. So you have to make sure you're on the same page. Let's say a kid says, "Can I go do this?" So you ask, you say, "What did mommy say?" or "What did tati say?" And that keeps you on the same page. And yeah. So a few of the questions that came in on writing we have is, how do you get them to listen right away, though, especially for kids with major time management problems? So I'm not sure what the time management problem has to do with it, but the more you follow through with this, the more they'll listen right away.
If you're standing next to them,
make sure that you follow through day in, day out, and make sure that what you say you really mean. Please don't make threats that you can't keep. Like if you're going to say you're at the store and if somebody touches something, we're all going to leave, that's not realistic. You have to still finish shopping. So you can't say, we're leaving, that's it. We're never coming back, or I'm never taking you again, or like, you can't say those things that you can't keep. Make sure that what you're saying, you actually mean it and you actually keep it. Also make sure that you don't repeat yourself. Many times we're like, go do this thing, go get dressed. And like, we're so spaced out in our phones and making breakfast and this and that and the other. We don't realize that we're saying it several times without it being kept. When you open your mouth, you have to have intention. And again, it's Chassidus. When you make an action, you have to have the kavanah behind it. You should. You have to know that what you're doing is what you're really gonna keep.
Just two things together with that. If you start it, you'll see by the second day be a totally different experience. I think what more you'll realize is learning what you're doing and how you have to change the way you're speaking. And another thing, if you say something that's outlandish and you realize it, and you realize you're not going to hold with it, don't keep on trying. Just let it go. Pretend we forgot about it and just move on. Because it's
one loss, but
you should try to avoid these things, but you don't want to be in a situation where you're trying to push, and in the end, you're just going to give in. That's the worst.
Okay. Another one of the questions was, what age should kids stop throwing things on the floor? From the moment they start throwing things on the floor. Joke aside. No, but really what I would say 2, maybe even 1.
Listen, every kid is different, but there's no reason why a kid should essentially, on purposely throwing things on the floor. And think about it. If they throw it on the floor, and you pick up the tray, you bring them down, you give them a towel, and you start making them wipe. How many times are they going to throw it on the floor? How many times make a mess? The mess is too much of a hassle for them to clean up. It's easy, it's like another example of this, and it goes back to that cause and effect thing. Like a kid walking down the stairs, you have to be there and make sure it's safe. But if you're there, jump. I remember when we just had Levik, and he was starting to walk. We were first new parents, and we're pretty careful, but we'd learned to keep your distance and let them understand that they have to take care of themselves. And I came downstairs, and we were in the car, and some other parents living here, and they were jumping the parents. The kid would do craziest things. He'd jump and try to land on the ground and climb trees. And I was like, wow. And the parents are running after the kid. And I realized because the kid doesn't understand the boundaries, doesn't understand the effects of what's happening, because he's just getting.
He always gets safe.
Yeah. And so this is what you're teaching them. When you're doing these things is, if you clean up after them, then they're getting safe. You don't have to worry about it. Whereas if they clean up themselves, they understand this. I can't make a mess. And then when they go to other people's houses or whatever, you're not kids are making a mess everywhere. Because he knows from experience that making a mess means cleaning up the mess.
Another question was, which one is the boundaries video? So if you go on our YouTube channel and look the playlist for Living Chinuch playlist, so there's one that we did before Corona. So we did a few of them before Corona. I think the second one is boundaries. Another one is like the kid that asked for a few more minutes. So this is, it's like, oh, I just need one more. I just need one more. I just need one more. That's what they're asking.
So what? It goes back to looking at yourself. Who are you? And what's your relationship with your kids? If you're a parent, a policeman comes and pulls you over, you're not going to say to him, hey, one more minute, I'm just in the middle of something. And for us, we instill this, we try this very much, that when we say something, like, and I love it, like our kids, they say, I'm coming. You call them, that even before they're there, they say, I'm coming, because they understand that when you've called them, they should come. And you have to make sure to call them for the right reason, and just, but when you call them, it's important enough that I'm expecting you to come straight away, so you should be coming straight away. So when they say just a few more minutes, they shouldn't be saying that. And meaning the situation shouldn't arrive. If it's something taka, they need a few more minutes. So then you have to realize that, and you have to wait and let them let them finish up before I say, a few more minutes and then finish up and we got to go. That's also, you can give them a heads up. It's not like stop in the middle. I always try to give them a heads up. Say, okay, 5 minutes and then we're going from the park, whatever it is. 5 minutes playing, and then we're going to get ready for bed. So they have that mental preparation. They have. But once that, and so then you can say, let's close up.
Yeah. Another thing is that this use of like police, I would be careful with it.
Yeah, I don't mean it in the being you should be a policeman. I mean it in the sense that the attitude you feel when you're in front of the policeman is not just children relax, but it's like, I'm listening.
Right.
That's all I mean. You should not be a policeman. As Manas Friedman says, you should be a sergeant. Drill sergeant.
So
not a policeman.
Something else to note is that here we're tackling situations where someone is not, like a child is not listening, then we're tackling a situation of a negative. But realize that the essence of this whole thing is really meant to be that we're trying to be as positive as possible. We're trying to really instill love in our children. We're trying to show them how much we care about them. We're so proud of them, and we're constantly, I call it a 5-to-1. 5 positive encounters and 1 harder encounter, let's say. So realize that right now we're tackling like a negative situation, not negative, but like a harder situation. But the rest of the time is spent trying to build them up. Find every single thing you can to compliment. And specific compliments, not just like, oh, you're such a good boy, or you're such a good girl, such a yingle, or whatever you want to call them. Like, it's saying, how, wow, you did such a beautiful job with your homework today, or you did such an incredible job picking that up, or you listened to mommy quickly today. So many things that you can find to compliment them, so that way you don't feel like a policeman.
Yeah, but
they love you and they want to respect you. They want to be there for you.
But I think together with that, the purpose of what we're doing here, what we're discussing, and how to make them listen to you the first time, is that you can be in those better situations where you can be complimenting them and saying all those good things. But it's hard if you're constantly running after your kids, or your kids are not listening, and it's a hassle, and anything done is like a hassle and just tiring. So then you don't have those. It's hard to make those opportunities. This part of this is not just they get to listen to me finally. It's you get to change your relationship, and then your relationship is not based off, is he listening to me, or is she not listening to me? But it's more, let's talk, let's hear stories, let's play together, let's spend some time together. But it's harder when you're constantly trying to just fight with them listening versus not listening. Walking to the park and you're constantly stressed out about, you don't have time to like have a conversation. You're stressed out. They're gonna get too close to it or not. They're not gonna listen to me, so I have to be careful. Whereas when we've gotten this foundation of I say something and it's listened to, so then you can go on to the next beautiful part of it and just enjoying your kids.
Yes, beautiful. Another question: should consequences be directly related to what they are doing? For example, what to do if child won't get in a car seat? So I want to speak about the car seat, actually. Many of these things, you could actually propose them already in a positive way. Like, wow, you're so big that you can get in a car seat all by yourself. I don't know what, can they hear me? Yeah. You're so big that you can get in a car seat all by yourself. So then if they aren't getting in a car seat, it's like, oh, so sad. You missed your opportunity to get in a car seat all by yourself, right? So it's not necessarily like a punishment. I'm getting you out of the car, because then again, that's also not realistic. You're never gonna go in the car again. Not realistic. Don't say such things. But if you say, such a shame that you missed this incredible opportunity to get in the car seat all by yourself. You're such a big boy, or you're such a big girl, and you could do it. Look, all the big kids get in the car seat by themselves, but you're missing out. So that might be it's not a punishment, but it's a natural consequence. If they're not mature enough to do it, so then they're missing out on this opportunity of feeling and acting mature.
Also together with that, I think maybe the question is also like, because the consequence should relate, should relate. It's like the consequence of walking under the table when you're too big is your head. It's not some separate thing. They go together. Whereas maybe in the car seat, it's not like you can say, if you're not going to get in the car seat, you're not coming. You can't do that. So if you see that they're not going to listen to you by you saying it by themselves, so you just do whatever you need to do to get it done. But with this, if you start off with the things that you can get them to listen to, and they will listen, so then the other things will automatically come along.
Yes.
And you won't have to deal with it. It's not like every little thing you have to tell them, you have to make sure they follow. When they start to see the pattern of what you're saying actually is going to happen, so then they'll understand with everything, with all the things. And then you just have to be careful what you're saying, but it will just play itself out with everything, and you'll find everything much easier. And then you can do like what she's saying, you just sort of flip it, and it's like who's a big person and who's a big boy in this room. Let's see who can climb up by themselves into the car seat, and then it'll just like automatically go to that direction.
Yeah, and to add to that, I want to reinstill the aspect of grab your easy pickings, the things that you for sure are going to win at. So make sure to say it and be consistent about it. If it's something that's easy, that you can make sure that they do it, and make sure that you stand your ground, look at them, make sure that they do it, and do it as often as possible.
In the small easy things.
That way
you won't have to deal with the big things.
Exactly.
They already understand it already.
Right. Okay, another question is, when you say 5 more minutes, then we are leaving, is using a timer okay, or better not to, so they get used to listening to you right away?
You can use a timer, but it doesn't have to be like a public thing. We're using a timer. It's just for yourself. You can use it, whatever works for you. It doesn't, if you want specifically 5 minutes and you have that time for yourself, so you can do it. If you don't, it doesn't have to be for them. It's more just yourself. You're saying 5 minutes. It's a mental preparation for them. It's like imagine you're in the middle of a good game and suddenly someone just goes, okay, stop, we're gonna go. You're like, oh man, I'm in the middle of a good game. So you're giving them that heads up, and that like it prepares them.
And I think it's less of an issue on the timer. Like it's less of the timer is for time, but your word, once those 5 minutes, when you give the 5-minute warning, your word is what matters. And when you're about to leave, your word is what matters. So timer is just for time. The authority on your word is your word. Does that make sense? Meaning like, it's not like, oh, when the timer beeps, we leave. It's more like when the timer beeps, I say we leave.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to get at.
And also the continuation of that discussion about the consequence should connect. And also the consequence, I'm not trying to punish them. I think it's also like one thing we realize. I'm not trying to sit there and make you suffer as much as I'm just trying to make you learn that this is not beneficial for you. We had let's say a kid's doing something that he shouldn't be doing. And so we had kid was biting his nails. So we said, in order to help you stop biting your nails, anytime we find you biting nails, we'll send you to the room. You have to wait a minute. And it wasn't like a negative way or any way.
Yeah, it wasn't a punishment.
It was just a way. And I told him, so this is just so you'll realize that you shouldn't do it. And so he did it like 1 day, 2 days, and he stopped. And it wasn't cry, wasn't unhappy. It was just a way to remind him that I shouldn't be doing this. And
we also forebrained with him at different times, like not in the time when he was biting his nails, but at a random when he was playing or in the bathtub or whatever, we would say, oh, you're not meant to eat this. It's klippa. I spoke about having healthy nails and how important it is in order to be able to open things and, whatever. I instilled in him the knowledge, because our job is to raise our children. Our job is not just to like stick them in a box, but is to give them the education so that they themselves want to do what's right. So if I explain to him, not at the time when he's biting his nails, but at a different time when he's calm and he's just, living life, and I explain to him the beauty of having nails and not biting them, so then he starts to think and he processes it, not as a punishment. He processes at his own decision that he doesn't want to. If I haven't answered your question, if you can send it to Living Chassidus number 2, then I'll have it here open. In the meantime, there was a question from last week that we didn't get to, so we wanted to bring that up. So one of them was that the child is coming and telling the parent after school that a kid threw grass at him. And so the parent comes and tells the child to speak to the teacher, but the kid doesn't want to. So is there, from the mother's perspective, I think she's here, is there anything you'd like to add, or should we just answer what from the knowledge that we have? We'll give 2 seconds.
No.
Hi.
Oh, wait, we can't. Hold on. We want to be able to hear you. Okay. I think we can hear you now.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes. Oh, wait.
Turn it down.
Sorry about that.
Need earphones.
Okay. I can hear you in my ear.
Hi. So thanks for taking my question. Yeah, basically it was just that the child was told that he had grass thrown on him, and how should I have him address it, and how should I address it at home? How should I address his emotions related to it when he's home? Like, do I encourage, oh, how did that make you feel? Or and what advice do I give him to do? Do I encourage him to tell the teacher? Do I tell the teacher? That's basically.
Okay. Let me make sure. Yeah. Okay, it's good. So if can you hear me? I don't think you do. Do you guys hear an echo? No. Okay. So in regards, so the 2 main points that I wanted to share is, that's fine, they don't hear. The 2 main points I wanted to share is how, yes, I guess one of the questions was whether you should tell the teacher, and whether you should encourage him to tell the teacher, and how does he feel, like what you should speak about how he feels about it. So
I think we just want a general thing that I think we can't stress enough, and when we do this, is that we're very in touch with our teachers. Like, that's what it is, and we know everything that's going on. If we have an issue, straight away we go to them. It's just a general communication. So then I think that's an important thing. At the end of the day, your kids' education, it's your kids, and the teacher, his job is to teach. Whether he does a good job or doesn't do a good job, he doesn't care about your kid as much as you care about your kid. And we've been in touch with our teachers very much. It takes a long time. It doesn't, it's not like 5 minutes. We put in the time, and every kid comes with his pakalach that you have to deal with. And you want to be as close to the teacher as possible to be able to figure what those are, especially, when you're a parent and you have your first child, you don't necessarily know everything. And I call the first kid the carbon, but that's where you learn everything. But that's the reality. And I see with my kids, the second kid, he's way advanced in a lot of things because we've experienced this. We understand what's expected. We understand where we should be holding. We understand what needs to be done because we learned it with the first kid. So it's very important to be in touch with the teacher to understand what's going on. What's the teacher doing? Is it being successful? Is he looking at my kid in a certain way that he shouldn't be? Is he pushing my kid more than he should be? What's going on? And that will only happen if you're really in touch with them. And it might take a little bit of time and effort. We have 3 kids in school, and we
speak to all the teachers probably once a week.
And it's been successful because of it. And a lot of the success that we have with our kids in school is because of our involvement. And if it wasn't for our involvement, we just put up to the school, whatever the school, we wouldn't be, the kids wouldn't be in the situation they are now. Baruch Hashem, they're in a very good situation. And it's because of the input, the amount that we've been involved. And I think I advise everyone to know the teachers well. And you can annoy them. It doesn't matter because it's your.
I want to add to that before you jump in there.
Yeah.
I want to share that a huge part of the relationship needs to come out of a positive, like you're not there to second question them. One of the speeches I give to every single one of the teachers that my children joins their class is that I am very much fully aware that the chinuch of my children is my achrayus. I pay you and you do your part, but the Eibusher gave me this child because it is my responsibility to take care of it. So I know that I'm not just dumping my kid onto someone else, and they know that, we're on the same we're on the same page, we're on the same team, we're trying to work together, as opposed to just you. On the one hand, you don't want to be a helicopter mom. On the other hand, you don't want to be you disappear and dump the kids and expect somebody else to raise them. I've heard that many times, the school will potty train, or the school will take care of this, the school will get rid of the whatever negative trait that my child has. We're on the same team, but it's really my achrayus. So I wanted to
put that very
disclaimer.
So that's a general thing. So you can have in touch and see what's going on behind the scenes. Just some kids being kids, which is speaking to your child is always a good thing. And say, I don't know if you have to. I don't know. You don't have to say, oh, how does that make you feel? Does that make you sad? You don't need to teach him emotions as much as let him just hear out his emotions. Say, oh, what happened? How's that?
You don't need to give them the emotions that you are expecting them to have.
Yeah.
Just be curious about it. I know there's certain, I don't remember exactly, but I'm sure that there were certain times when kids, when I was growing up, probably made fun of me or whatever, but I didn't notice. And so therefore it didn't bother me. And then later on, when I got more mature and then I did notice, and I would do something about it. But if it's not, it's not menschlich. And again, this also depends on what actually happened. It's possible that what he means is that he took grass and they threw it together in the sky, and they're all dancing in the grass. And so somebody threw grass at him could be a game, or somebody threw grass at him could be negative. So yes, you do want to get a picture of what your child is trying to tell you, and you want to hear as much as possible without your judgment on it, without what you think is happening. Just try and be a blank slate and be open to what they have to say. Not only that, but definitely bring it up with the teacher, have an open discussion about it. There's certain things that were happening that the teacher said something happened in my kid's class, and I said, oh, interesting. Is it okay if I come and watch? It'll take me less than an hour. I'll just come and I'll see what actually happened. And I'm very glad that my school is very into, the school that we send is very into that, and they want parents to come and be involved. So I watched, and then I was able to understand much better what's the actual picture. So then when my children come home and they tell me things, I'm able to pick up the variables around it.
So I think just to finish it off with what the kid, if ask him how he feels about it, see if it's a problem or not. If he doesn't want to speak to the teacher, maybe you go speak to the teacher, and also try to find out why he doesn't want to speak to the teacher. Is it just I'm a little kid doesn't feel comfortable with the teacher, or is it something else that you want? You want to try to have that relationship relatively good. Or he's too young, just doesn't really, there's no communication. So you go to the teacher and you say, this is what's happening, and what's the story? What are we doing about this?
Mm-hmm.
And stick up for your child.
Yeah, and also ask the child if he doesn't or if she doesn't feel comfortable speaking to the teacher. It's normal, because there is that barrier between, especially depending on what age we're talking here, but it's normal to have that, respect, awe, fear, whatever you want to call it, of a teacher and not feel comfortable sometimes. But throughout the year, your child needs to start feeling comfortable with the teacher. If not, later on, when they start learning, more information, they'll be too afraid, let's say, to ask a question. They'll be too afraid to show that they don't understand something, to ask for something, to speak up. And you want to work on that. You want to make sure that your child's feeling confident and comfortable in class, so that they're actually learning as much as they can.
Childhood and confidence is good.
Yeah, and then also you want them to enjoy school. You want them to have a good time. You want them to be there and have a wonderful time. So to get clarity what actually happened, whether it's bothering him or not, and to get clarity what actually happened from the teacher's perspective, and get the teacher to realize that maybe your child isn't speaking to the teacher, so therefore he or she should make an extra effort to speak to your child. Like building that relationship, that bond between child and teacher, and between you and the teacher and the child, all of you guys together being on the same team is very, very important.
I just want to end off with that. Just one of the teachers of one of my kids, at the end of the year, he said to me, his graduation, he said to me, he goes, there's only a certain amount that I can teach. And he goes, I can tell the difference in comparison to a kid that has his parents at home involved versus his parents not involved. And he said, and he goes, we can both see it, what we've accomplished. And I was like, and I don't know, I'm like my first kid, but I was like, wow. And I realized, and what he was telling us is essentially that he can do only a certain amount, and it's what we do at home, and how much interest we put in and things like this. And yeah.
Okay, let's see. I'm just gonna check the questions on this phone because she's gonna answer a question. 1 second. How do you get them to listen right away though, especially kids? Oh, we said that already. I love that. What if you dropped their body, like they have no muscles, LOL, and you have to drag them to follow through?
Yeah, that's fine. That's perfect. That's just part of the process when the kid does that. So again, work on trying not to show any emotion. It's a challenge, but the better you can not show emotions, because when you show emotion, it gives into what it feeds into them, because they see they're having an effect. So the kid drops their body, you just drag them along. Sometimes, my kids make a mess and phone, I'll clean it up in there, and they don't want to, not interested. So I'll just hold their hand and I'll do it. And if I'll be doing it with their hand, but it's not enjoyable when they drop the body like that. It's not enjoyable. Another, I think a general klal, one of the things we learned, took, a few years to figure this out. But chances are, we noticed that all our issues essentially started when kids were tired and hungry. Tired and hungry were like the two main issues. And what we started to get the kids to bed earlier made a very big difference. And I think that's also another thing. So what happened, meaning if my kids not like being all weak, and I realized that really he just needs to go to bed or she needs to go to bed. So I would try to prevent that happening again, but maybe this time I would even just say, okay, just go to bed, and I think we've solved a lot of issues just by sending them to bed. And I think that's also you have to realize.
Or feeding them. Yeah,
we realize within ourselves, and feeding them is not giving them a piece of bread. My kids, in school, they have ketchup sandwiches. That's not considered eating.
Gosh.
We mean like some protein or something. Giving them proper hefty meal. When they come home from school, we started realizing that by the time they eat dinner at 6, they're starving, and everything becomes a hassle.
Homework was so hard to do, and getting them, just spending quality time with them after school was just so hard. I realized a little snack after school didn't cut it. We started giving more of a hefty
meal. Or would sort of do dinner earlier, 4:30 dinner. And then the rest of the night, the kids are like, they're functional. Yeah. And I think also for ourselves, if we're tired and we're hungry, it makes a big difference how we deal with situations. And for the kids, for sure. And we realize this, and we cut down bedtime, like make sure to go to bed earlier. And we can tell now, it's like, just go to bed. And we won't deal with the issue, because with the issue is not this little thing they're complaining about or they're not wanting to do. It's just they need to go to bed. And that's one of the things also to recognize, are they hungry or are they tired? The first question, if they're not wanting to do what you want, are they hungry or are they tired? But if they're limp, it's a drag a little bit, but you show that it doesn't affect you. It doesn't make a difference to you, and they could make a temper tantrum, You just have to don't worry about it. You have to have that look like I'm good. I can do this and I'm fine. And they're trying to just push you and trying to get what they want. And if you show them that I'm going to do this, I'm here and I can do this all night this way. You have to don't speak and have all these discussions. If you ask them to do something specific, let's say they don't do it. Another example, they don't do something. You ask them to do them. So you might say, no, we need to do this. I don't want to do it. So if you're not going to do it, then you're going to have to go, time out. And what they're going to do, they're going to come and start making a noise and screaming. If it's not near you, it doesn't bother you. You don't have to worry about it. They come and start and doing these things. You just act cool. If they have to be in the corner, put them back in the corner. They might walk off. So you don't have to one of the things is if they walk off, if you stand next to them and you put them back down, it doesn't gain anything. But if you stand further away, back in their room, and then they walk off to the room and you have to take them all the way back 5 times of going back and forth, it gets tiring for them. It's annoying.
And again, you have to make sure not to lose your cool. If you give them a negative reaction, like stop Mendel or stop Chaya or whatever, and you get heated about it, then they realize that they're getting a reward. They're pushing a button and there's sparkles are coming out. So you just you walk back with them quietly. Don't say anything. Don't lose. Just very calm. This is what it is. At this point, you're not behaving in a way that should be with the rest of us, and so therefore you have to sit over here. And again, you don't say it, but in your mind, this is what you think. You take them back, and then you put them back down. You take them back, and then you put them back down. And sometimes it takes a while, especially if there's you haven't done this before. But cool, calm, and collected. Again, remember, realize that this is all Torah. In halacha, we say what we do and we do what we say. That's just it is what it is. It's boundaries. We have boundaries all over the place. So here you're just being relaxed about it, making sure that it gets kept in a very calm and relaxed way.
And again, we can do this next week. Talk about it again. It's not it takes time. It took us time to figure this out, understand this, and to realize this. And and we went down Mashpia and talk about this, and it takes time. And then and then it gets to the stage where it's working, and then it stops working. You're like, oh, why isn't it working anymore? So they're like, well, you're not doing it again. Like, what do you mean I'm not doing it? And you're like, okay, I guess I'm not doing it. So it takes time. There's nothing, it's very much trying, just trying, keep on trying. And then, you can say, oh, but why didn't it work this time? Or why didn't I? And you'll work on it. And, I'm telling you, if you keep on trying, you'll see. If you do it, if you manage to do it consistently the first time, by the end of the day, you'll be a different day. And the next day, it'll be a totally different experience. Mm-hmm. But if you don't know a little bit, it'll be little mistakes. It'll be fine. We'll work and it won't work, and we'll just continue. You'll call us back. We'll figure it out again.
Yeah, there was one question. What if kid won't let you help him pick something up? Meaning, if you were to try to help him, it would hurt him, chas v'shalom, because he's pulling away.
Say that again.
Let's say you're I think this is related to the conversation earlier where you're saying, okay, grab his hand and with his hand pick it up.
Yeah.
But he doesn't, and you're afraid of hurting him by forcing him.
So you hold him with the other hand. You don't have to do it in a way. Listen, they get hurt a little bit. It's nicht gefährlich. It's a lot.
One second, rewind. Before you say that and get chas v'shalom sued, that's not what we mean. What we mean is that if it's a natural consequence that they chose to hurt themselves for this, not that you hurt them, but they chose to fight it out so much that they end up, it's kind of like a kid that wants to scream. We had, I think the previous thing was a kid that wanted to scream in class. So if they're going to scream their head off to the point that their throat hurts, so that's their choice. You didn't make them scream. So too here, you asked them nicely, or told them nicely, you asked to follow through, and again, you're not trying to hurt them, and that's not the purpose at all. Chas v'shalom, chas v'shalom. Yeah. If they themselves kick and scream to such a point that their throat hurts or their feet hurt from kicking, you didn't do anything. It was a natural consequence of their decision. And you know what? Maybe that's a good lesson for them not to throw a temper tantrum. I don't throw temper tantrums. That hurts my throat and it hurts my legs and it hurts my feet. So I wouldn't do that. So it's possible that this might be a good lesson for them, as long as you don't lose your cool, as long as you're not the one that gets so angry that you squeeze them, or you get so angry that you shove them. So then if that's where you're headed, anger is never good. And so you have to step back and maybe let this go. It's possible that for this child at this point, the consequence of throwing something on the floor, if they're really going to fight to such a point that they're going to get hurt, maybe the consequence is just not necessarily clean it up, but maybe the consequence is that they need to go somewhere else. You're not behaving in a way, we're all eating dinner here, we're all behaving nicely, you're not acting nicely, you can go do that somewhere else. And that's what we do. We take the child out of the situation, not as a punishment, but as the people who are in this room behave in a certain way that's respectful and loving. If you're not fitting with what's happening in this room, you don't get to be in this room. When you're ready to come and behave nicely like the rest of us, then you can come back. And again, it's not go to your room. It's not an anger. It's very calm. It's very direct. This is just what it is. It's kind of like, you don't go to the base of Mikdash and like throw stuff. Someone's gonna nicely tell you, please come out. Like this is not where you do that.
I think also just to end it off, that together with this, then once it's finished, once the consequence happened, we don't have a grudge against them for the rest of the day.
Yes, it's very important.
You're good. It's tshuva. We say slach lanu avinu, and it's a bracha, which means we're forgiven. And the same thing, once they've done whatever they need to do, we're good. And then you can go play with them.
Yeah, it's as if it didn't happen. Like
you just move on, and if anything, you give them opportunities to compliment them. So you could be like, oh, can you just pass me that water bottle? It's like, oh, thank you so much. You passed me the water bottle straight away. What a good boy, whatever it is, and you can always, don't try to like, whatever, it's a natural, I think, tendency is like, but we have to move on. We're happy.
Yes. Okay. I hope this was helpful. Mitzvah Hashem. We'll have more again next week. And again, if you've missed any of the other ones, go to our YouTube channel, Living Chassidus, and you can look on the playlist, which is called Living Chinuch, and you can check out all the other ones there. Thank you, everybody.